Mark Reynolds was a man who knew the price of everything and the value of nothing. He owned a chain of tire shops across Georgia, each one a testament to his ambition and ruthlessness. Mark lived in a sprawling mansion, his days filled with closing deals and counting profits. He saw people as stepping stones, their worth measured solely by their utility to his empire. His heart, once filled with youthful dreams, had hardened into a vault of greed. Mark's life was a gilded cage of his own making. He had everything money could buy, but none of the things that truly mattered. He had forgotten the simple joys of life, the warmth of human connection, the satisfaction of giving back. His days were a blur of acquisition and ambition, each one indistinguishable from the last. Little did he know, a fateful encounter awaited him, an encounter that would shatter his world and set him on a path of profound transformation. One sweltering summer afternoon, Mark found himself drawn to a peculiar shop on the outskirts of Atlanta. It was an apothecary, its dusty windows filled with strange herbs and shimmering liquids. He couldn't explain the pull he felt, a whisper of something forgotten stirring within his soul. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of sandalwood and myrrh. Behind the counter stood an old man, his eyes twinkling with an otherworldly light. "Welcome, Mark," the man greeted him, his voice a low, resonant hum. Mark was taken aback. He had never been to this shop, yet the man knew his name. "You have something for me," Mark stated, more of a demand than a question. The old man smiled knowingly. "Indeed, I do. I have exactly what you need, though not what you desire." Mark scoffed, his skepticism evident. He prided himself on his logic, his ability to control any situation. Yet, something about the old man's calm demeanor unsettled him. He accepted the small vial offered to him, a mixture swirling with an ethereal glow. "Drink this," the man instructed, "and your true transformation will begin." The next morning, Mark awoke to find himself a changed man, though not in the way he had ever imagined. Gone was his athletic physique, replaced by an unfamiliar heaviness. He looked in the mirror and gasped. Staring back at him was a stranger, overweight, and bearing a slight limp. Panic surged through him as he realized he possessed an uncanny ability to move objects with his mind. This was no dream. It was his new reality. Penniless and desperate, Mark found himself on the streets. The cold indifference of the city a harsh contrast to the luxury he once knew. People who wouldn't have given him the time of day now looked through him. He spent nights shivering beneath underpasses, the gnawing pangs of hunger a constant companion. His only solace was a small notebook he carried, filled with scribbled notes about his transformation. Finally, with nowhere else to go, Mark stumbled upon a homeless shelter. It wasn't the plush accommodations he was accustomed to, but it offered a roof over his head and a glimmer of hope. Among the residents, he saw a reflection of his own arrogance and the consequences of his greed. He had judged people based on their circumstances, never realizing the invisible battles they fought every day. Life in the shelter was a far cry from Mark's former existence. He slept on a cot in a crowded room, the air thick with the scent of sweat and despair. The food was simple, the conversations even more so. Yet for the first time in his life, Mark felt a sense of belonging. He listened to the stories of his fellow residents, their tales of hardship and resilience humbling him. He learned their names, their struggles, their dreams. He met Sarah, a single mother struggling to provide for her 2 young children. He met John, a veteran battling the invisible scars of war. He met Maria, an elderly woman abandoned by her family. Each story chipped away at the wall around Mark's heart, revealing the compassion that had been buried beneath layers of greed. Driven by a newfound sense of purpose, Mark started volunteering at the shelter. He used his telekinetic abilities discreetly, moving heavy boxes, fixing broken appliances, ensuring the most vulnerable received their meals first. These small acts of kindness, once beneath him, now filled him with a sense of purpose he had never known. He was no longer the tycoon, the deal-maker, the man of power. He was simply Mark, a man trying to atone for his past by embracing the present. Mark's telekinesis, initially a source of fear and confusion, became his greatest asset. He used it to help others. His powers a constant reminder of his transformation and the path he was now on. He would subtly rearrange donated clothes so that a child in need would find the perfect winter coat. He would ensure that the oldest and frailest resident always had a clear path to their bed. These acts of service, performed in secret, brought him a quiet satisfaction. However, his powers were also a burden. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were a test, a constant reminder of the man he used to be. He yearned for a connection, a confidant who would see beyond his abilities and into his heart. He longed for someone to share his life with, someone who would accept him for who he was, flaws and all. This yearning led him to Gloria. One chilly evening, a new volunteer arrived at the shelter. Her name was Gloria, and she radiated warmth and kindness. Gloria had a smile that could light up a room and a laugh that was contagious. She had dedicated her life to helping others, finding joy in the smallest acts of service. Mark was drawn to her immediately. Gloria saw past Mark's gruff exterior and recognized the goodness within. She didn't judge him for his past or his abilities. She accepted him for who he was, a man striving to be better. They spent their evenings talking, sharing stories, finding solace in each other's company. As Mark and Gloria's bond deepened, he felt a glimmer of the man he once was, the man buried beneath years of greed and ambition. Gloria's love was a balm to his soul, reminding him of the simple joys of life, laughter, companionship, and the quiet contentment of shared moments. He began to understand that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars and cents, but in the love he gave and received. Gloria encouraged Mark's growth, inspiring him to be more present, more compassionate, more forgiving. He learned the true meaning of grace, not as a gift bestowed, but as a state of being, a conscious choice to live with an open heart. He realized that his journey wasn't about regaining his wealth, but about reclaiming his soul. One starlit night, as Mark lay awake in the shelter, he felt a familiar presence. The scent of sandalwood and myrrh filled the air, transporting him back to that fateful day in the apothecary. He turned to see the old man standing before him, his eyes twinkling with an ethereal light. But this time, he appeared as a celestial being, his form radiating an otherworldly glow. He was an angel, sent to guide Mark on his journey. "You have learned well, Mark," the angel said, his voice a melody that resonated deep within Mark's soul. "You have replaced greed with grace, indifference with empathy, and isolation with love." Mark looked down at his hands, no longer unfamiliar but strong and capable. With a gentle touch, the angel stripped away Mark's telekinetic abilities. "Your true power, Mark, was never in moving objects but in moving hearts," the angel said. "You have found your way back to yourself, to the good man you always were meant to be." As the first rays of dawn illuminated the shelter, Mark awoke feeling lighter than he had in years. He looked over at Gloria, her face serene in sleep, and a profound sense of gratitude washed over him. He had found love, not in the mansion he had lost, but in the shelter that had become his home. He had discovered the true meaning of wealth, not in the accumulation of possessions, but in the richness of his experiences and the love that surrounded him. Mark never forgot the lessons he learned during his time at the shelter. He and Gloria continued to volunteer, their love for each other overflowing into acts of service for others. He had traded his expensive suits for a simple life, his pursuit of wealth for the pursuit of something far greater, the wealth of the soul. Mark's journey was a testament to the transformative power of love, grace, and the realization that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself.